Hey, Lord Roll, aka Mega Woods. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down and recapping my Pittsburgh Regional Championship run. I want to start off with the deck list and some of the cool stuff that I picked up while I was there, and just some other cool pictures kind of throughout the event before we head up into the matchup spread, which will take up a good chunk of the video. I wouldn't change anything about the list I played. I played Raging Bolt EX. Even after knowing all the Gardevoir stuff that was doing really well, I still don't think I would have changed the deck I played. Raging Bolt's a deck that I've been playing pretty much exclusively for the last, month and a half, so I felt very comfortable with the deck going into the tournament. The big things to kind of point out in the list is that I'm not playing in the 80 HP Hoothoot, just 370. The reason was, if you prize Latias and you start with the 80 HP Hoothoot in the active spot, it has 2 retreat cost, and Latias lets you retreat for free, so you're kind of just stuck with this Hoothoot that is really difficult to retreat out of, unfortunately. So I kind of did it for that reason, and with the Dragapult matchup is kind of the reason why you play it. However, I felt like as long as I played the matchup well enough, even with the 70 HP Hoothoot, and just kept myself mentally aware of when Holucha would actually be viable for them to use, I could play around it. So that was pretty helpful. Big shout outs to a lot of the cards that actually helped me, I feel like, throughout the day. The Baby Raging Bolt, Thunderburst Storm is just nuts. Slither Wing is absolutely insane. Burning Turbulence is so good. Being able to just punish Pikachu EX, Iron Hands, Miraidons, the Joltik box deck, Django, Blood Mooners, Lunos, Terapagos. The card's just so versatile. It's great. Cornerstone Ogerpon, I want to shout it out for actually not helping me, because when I needed it the most, it was prized, and that sucked for me, actually. 3 Teal Mask Ogerpon for the draw engine, 2 Raging Bolt EX, so pretty standard on the kind of Pokemon side. 4 Sada, 2 Boss, 2 Crispin, 1 Energy Retrieval, 1 Energy Switch, Prime Catcher, Judge. A lot of people were telling me I should just play Iono, but I kind of prefer the Judge, to be honest. 4 Nest Ball, 3 Ultra Ball, 3 Night Stretcher. A lot of people were playing 4 Ultra Ball and 2 Night Stretcher. However, I really liked the 3rd Stretcher over the 4th Ultra Ball, because it allowed me to be a little bit more aggressive with kind of the plays I was making throughout the tournament, and allowed me to play a little faster and not have to kind of stress too much over what energies I was discarding and stuff. I just felt like the 4th Ultra Ball wasn't really worth it a lot of the times. I just kind of ended up discarding it, or just it would be just a dead card to draw. However, Night Stretcher never felt like a dead card to draw, because I could always just Night Stretcher for a grass energy and at least draw a card with it, which was always very nice. 3 Fighting, 3 Psychic, or 3 Lightning, 5 Grass, 3 Area Zeros, and 3 Earthen Vessels. Like I said, I wouldn't change anything about the list at all. I feel like the deck I picked, even after knowing Gardevoir Jellicent and just Gardevoir were going to run rampant in Pittsburgh, I still would have played this to Pittsburgh. But let's talk about some of the stuff in the back that you see. We got the Cyndaquil and the Plusle Minun. These were plushies that my girlfriend and I wanted to pick up in Indy and in Louisville when we both went to those, and they just didn't have them. They were out of stock or whatever, so I'm kind of glad we got to double down and pick them up this time, and we're actually able to find them, which was really helpful. And then we also got the Sylveon keychain as well for her, so a lot of this stuff is just going to kind of either hang out behind me or in her office and kind of one of her shelves. We'll have to see where they end up going. But I'm glad we're able to pick up all these plushies, because who doesn't like Pokemon plushies? I also picked up myself the full art Woobat. I think the card's just really pretty, and I kind of own my first slab. I've never owned a slab card before, so I now own one of those for the first one. But I'm really glad I picked it up. I just think the card's really beautiful, and Woobat's one of the emotes that we use here on the channel for kind of the love emote, which I think is great. And then we got the promo, Team Rocket's Giovanni, and the playmat the cards are on top of is the playmat from the regional championships as well. It looks pretty awesome. I believe it's still in my suitcase somewhere, because I haven't unpacked anything yet. Moving forward to the next couple pictures here, I ended up being able to meet up with the Draw Pass guys, which was actually really happy and really exciting for me. I kind of was a part of the Draw Pass team for a while, and then ended up having to take a step back as my life just kind of got a little hectic, and I didn't really have the time to commit to it like I thought I would. But nonetheless, it was really great to be able to kind of meet up with all these guys. So the one directly next to me is Chris, or Jin's TCG, and just kind of just a solid dude. Super nice guy. Was really happy and just very eager to just have a good conversation, which was really exciting. And then we had Chef Husky here with the apron, and now Chef Husky is the one that ran the Creators Cook-Off tournament, and that I actually had taken second place in, and Chris kind of co-hosted with Chef Husky in the tournament, or kind of to run the tournament. So that was pretty cool. And then the person on the far end is Bluestone, which is actually the person that I lost to in the finals of the Creators Cook-Off tournament in the really wacky Venomoth perplexing powder mirror match, which actually left me and the rest of you guys in the chat that was there with me absolutely perplexed about just how the game ended. So big shout out to all them guys. It was really exciting to kind of meet everybody, kind of put a face to the name, if it were, which was really awesome. And then my girlfriend and I went to what I have to think has to be the best pizza place in Pittsburgh. Pizza Parma was insane. That was the best pizza I've ever had. The people that were running the restaurant were so incredibly nice. The pizza I actually ate was just a straight up recommendation from the owner's son. I was like, hey man, what pizza do you recommend? And he just recommended this pizza, and I was like, yeah man, do it up. And it was super awesome, like super nice guy. And like I said, the food was absolutely fantastic. And then we ended up getting to be one of the first people to try their new dessert that they added to the menu, which was like funnel cake sticks. And these things were like phenomenal. These things were so good. I had to force myself to stop eating them because I was ready to eat a lot of them. So that was a really nice way to kind of just end the weekend, being able to stuff our stomachs full with a bunch of good food and then drive home for the night and just kind of sing a bunch of goofy songs with my girlfriend on the way home, which was tons of fun. So now, one last pitch, which I think is really funny, actually. I, in round 2, played against a friend of mine who I've known for the last couple years, and kind of somebody I've always looked up to in the Pokemon trading card game, which is Nick Delatorre. And I just thought it was ironic and really funny, and I wanted to toss this in here, that round 2 at a regional of like 2,700 people, I played against somebody that I've played at with League Cups and challenges and just various things like that, and somebody that I will text, every so often about like just different advice for things. So big shout out to Nick. That was the most fun I've ever had playing a game, but we'll kind of talk more into that when I get up to the matchup spread. But I wanted to take a picture and screenshot and just show you guys, because I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and it was just easing the pressure. I thought was really nice. But let's get into the matchups. Already here at the matchups. So I did finish with a 2-2-2 record and then dropped from the tournament. Let's just kind of go from chronological order. Round 1 was very interesting. Everybody kind of knew about the whole waiting in line security fiasco in the morning. So we started very late. So my opponent was actually waiting there for me when I got there. It was super nice actually to just kind of ease the pressure with, and we kind of just bantered back and forth about the crazy line insecurity. But they were on Flareon, like Noctowl EV box, but they also had the Terapagos package in the deck. Game 1, they just prized horribly. They didn't have a great hand. They kind of had a pretty slow start, and I just had an absolute gas start, just kind of ran them over. They scooped pretty quick. We went game 2. I lost that game because they were playing the Terapagos, and they actually crown opaled me pretty much entirely out of the game. So I knew going into game 3 that I needed to be able to be aware of the Terapagos. So I kind of just chased it down, essentially. I went really early and really hard and committed with 2 Noctowl Jewel Seekers. So 4 cards total to pull off a, Prime Catcher plus boss play on the Terapagos with my Slither Wing. So I just chased the thing down, so much so that I actually saved a boss in my hand when they played Terapagos again and bossed it up to actually knock out my Slither Wing to KO their Terapagos, because I knew if I didn't get rid of the Terapagos, then I was just completely out of this game. So worked out very well for me. I was able to kind of close out the game with a huge Bellowing Thunder on a Flareon, which was really nice. And then round 2, I played against Nick Delatorre, like I said, and he was on Gardevoir Jellicent. Now, game 1, I can only describe this game as just the most ridiculous game of Pokemon I think I've played in a long time. I did things like evolve my Hoothoot into a Noctowl without being able to trigger the Jewel Seeker ability, just to be able to do more damage to his Ralts as he side shot me for 3 turns in a row. So that was the kind of game we got to play, game 1. So I scooped really quickly because my hand was just awful, and I knew in order for us to finish, at least another game, I would have had to scoop really early. So scooped up pretty quick, and then went to game 2. Really tight back and forth game, but I think he prized like his Guardy or whatever, and just kind of couldn't quite piece together the pieces to kind of end it, and I ended up just being able to draw into a lot of things that I did need without having to worry about him disrupting me. And even when he was able to, I was kind of able to double down and come back to it, which was really nice. So really tight game 2, and I felt like I was kind of on top of a lot of what was happening. Gardevoir is just a very hard matchup for Raging Bolt. However, I kind of knew that going into it, so in the second game, I went really early on into the baby Raging Bolt and was trying to apply pressure that way, and I was even doing things where I was just like, okay, like a punching with Fan Rotom, like I was taking knockouts with that, and using the Assault Landing attack as much as I possibly could, which I felt like also kind of helped me out a lot in the matchup. And then game 3 was literally just a donk. He started Lone Frillish, and I went Ditto, Transformative Start, Raging Bolt, Crispin, donk. So had that not happened, we probably would have not even finished a third game. I will say, I feel like the Gardevoir Raging Bolt matchup just 9 times out of 10 ends in a tie. I'm not even saying that because my next 2 rounds were Gardevoir, but also just because Raging Bolt just draws a lot of cards, so I have a lot of game actions I have to take, and Gardevoir's the same way. Like, Gardevoir is just notoriously a slower deck to play, and Raging Bolt just takes a lot of game actions, so that kind of route ends up being pretty difficult. And then round 3, I ended up playing against another Gardevoir Jellicent. I won the first game. I don't quite remember how it went. I think it was just a lot of, like, me applying a lot of pressure with Fan Rotom, and applying a lot of pressure with like Baby Raging Bolt and stuff like that, and then taking a huge knockout on the Jellicent pretty late on, and then he was able to like Lily's Clefairy KO with Gardevoir, and I just like followed up and just like blew up the Gardevoir for 4 energy and won the game that way. And then we didn't finish. The second game was really tight. It was very long and very grindy. Both of us were just like kind of counteracting each other the whole time. Like, he had a really slow start, so it kind of forced the game into this really weird, awkward spot. I didn't really have a lot going on, so I was applying pressure with like a Fan Rotom and just kind of punching with that a bunch and took 2 prizes that way, but it just ended up dragging the game out really long. He was able to close out the game like right before time was called, and then we kind of were just like, hey, do you want to tie? And I was like, nah, man, because if you start like Lone Thing, I can kind of donk you with Crispin, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, fair enough. And then, was able to just go like buddy PAF, and I was like, all right, cool, whatever you got to do. Like, we'll just tie it up. Round 4, I played against just straight Gardevoir. Now, Gardevoir Jellicent is actually a better matchup for Raging Bolts because I can KO the Jellicent with 4 energies pretty easily for the most part, and then item locking me kind of like mid to late game almost does nothing, because at that point I'm already set up. I'm not really using a lot of item cards or anything. I'm just kind of sodding a bunch of stuff. However, round 4 I played against just straight Guardy, and that matchup is hard. I lost game 1 just kind of in typical fashion. I prized my Baby Bolt, so I ended up having to like go really hard into Fan Rotom early. I remember also like having to do some really weird lines where I was like taking a knockout with Slither Wing because I just kind of had to. I was trying to force him to also knock out my 1 prizers while taking 1 prize KOs to try to slowly finish out the game by knocking out his Gardevoir with 2 prizes. But it's just really hard when you get like monkeys and stuff set up. It's really hard for me to come out of it. And then game 2, he had a pretty slow start. He actually like prized one of his Guardies, and I kind of realized that pretty quickly, because when we were playing, there was a moment where he had a Curlia set up, and I KO'd a Gardevoir, and he Night Stretchered, or he Ultra Balled for a different card, and then Night Stretchered for the Gardevoir out of the discard pile. So I was like, oh, okay, you probably prized Guardy. So I just chased the Guardy around a bunch the whole game, and then just kept killing that instead. That worked out for me pretty well. And then it was kind of the same thing as round 3. We had like 5 minutes left, and he was like, you want to just call it quick and ID? And I was like, look, man, we'll draw our opening hands, we'll do the whole thing. I lost. Actually, I think I did it wrong. I think I won game 1, And then I lost game 2, so this actually should be different. It should be this. I was like, hey man, look, because if I can go second, I can Crispin, I can donk, and whatever. He goes, all right, cool. And then we started, he went turn 1, and then showed me he had Ultra Ball plus whatever, and I was like, okay, you know, I'll try. And then like I kind of like did a bunch of stuff. Was able to KO the thing on his bench with the baby Raging Bolt, because I was able to like, I was able to knock out the thing in the active spot with a big Raging Bolt, and then he was like draw for turn, research, and then like drew into 2 more basics, and I was like, all right, we'll just ID because we're not going to finish the game now at that point. So we kind of played it out, but we were just like, whatever, we'll just scoop it up and it'll be fine. And then round 5, this is where it gets really bad. So at this point, I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm 2-0-2. Have yet to lose to my absolutely worst matchup, and I've played 3 of them, right? I've won 1 of them. I've tied the other 2. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, you know what? It's not a big deal. We're going to be fine. And like, this is where it just goes downhill for the run here. I played in the mirror match, and my opponent takes, he was like, hey, I'm going to take a little bit the prize check. And I was like, all right, man, whatever. Like, we're playing the mirror match. Like, it's probably going to be pretty quick. Takes like 2.5 minutes, and I'm like, look, dude, you got to go faster. Like, you can't be taking that long. He's like, oh, so sorry. I was like, you're good, dude. Just like, you need to go faster. Like, if we're going to finish these games, we got to go quick. So, and my hand was like god awful, so I'm already kind of like, all right, dude, hurry up. Like, this game's, I'm probably going to have to scoop go next. So I like draw, and I'm like doing things. Like, I attached a lightning energy to my Ogerpon, my Teal Mask Ogerpon, and I'm just like, pass. So I was just like, he like drew and was like knocked out. I was like, all right, yep, I'll go second. Or I was like, I'll go first. So let me go next game, whatever. And I look at my hand, and it's like 3 energy, Night Stretcher, energy switch, Fez. And I'm like, awesome. All right. So I stick Fez in the active spot, and kind of the same thing happens. I just dead draw into a bunch of stuff. And it turns into this really awkward position where, like, do I just concede and just be done with it? And then I actually, like, end up being able to finally check my prizes, and I prized Latias, an energy, 3 Professor Sada's Vitality, and my Prime Catcher. So there was no way I'm winning this game, hardly at all. So I was just like, whatever, GG's, and I just like got up and like went to go get food. Like, I just ate some snacks out of my bag, and like ended up getting like a quick snack from like, you know, the convention center or whatever. And then I'm feeling kind of recharged. I'm like, all right, cool. So I sit down on my round 6 opponent, and he's on Goldango, and I'm like, all right, I'm feeling pretty fine into this matchup. Like, we got Cornerstone, like, we're gonna be fine, right? He's playing Scizor EX. Now, if you guys don't know what Scizor EX does, that's okay, because I didn't either. He then proceeds to tell me after the first game, I'm sorry, I should backtrack. The first game, I brick again. I start with Hoothoot in the active, Hoothoot on the bench, and Raging Bolt. And my hand is just beyond awful. And I'm like trying to piece it together. I find like a nest ball, and I'm like, all right, cool. I draw a card, and it wasn't like anything I needed. And then the next turn I draw a nest ball, and I'm like, all right, sick. You know, I have grass energy in hand, like, let's just do that. So I'm like, nest ball, you know, Teal dance, whatever, draw nothing. And I like attach to my Raging Bolt for turn. I'm like, pass. He like KOs a Hoothoot, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I promote the Ogerpon, I do whatever, and I end up taking like a 2-prize knockout on a Goldango at some point. And then after that, he just like absolutely steamrolls me. He's got like 3 Dangos set up. Like, I prized my Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon because of course I did. And that just kind of steamrolled from there. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'll just scoop. We'll go next. So I scoop up real quick, start shuffling up. I was like, look, man, I'm going to go first. And he benches 2 Scythers. And I'm like, no shot. I was like, this dude is just playing like the punching scissors, Scizor. Like, he's just playing that whole package. So I'm just playing into it, thinking of that, because that's what everybody's mostly been doing to kind of counter, you know, Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon. And then he like, I have a pretty slow-ish start. We're kind of going back and forth. Like, I end up taking like a knockout on a bench Gimme Ghoul with like baby Raging Bolt. He takes a knockout on the baby Bolt, and then I promote a Raging Bolt. I KO a Genesect before he can like draw a bunch more Goldangos, and then he KOs the Raging Bolt, and then I throw the Cornerstone in play. And I'm like, all right, dude, like, or I KO'd the Scyther on the bench, and then he benches another Scyther, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so, okay, like, whatever, I have boss in hand, like, it's not a big deal. And then he does that, so I actually like boss the Scyther, KO it, go to 2 prizes, and he's like Night Stretcher for the Scyther, put it in play, and I'm like, okay, I don't have another boss. Like I have nothing. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like we're just gonna hope that I can live, one of these, punching scissors attacks, and we'll be fine. And then he evolves it into Scizor EX, and I go, can I read that? And he's like, yep. So I pick it up and I read it, and I just like read the bottom attack, and it's literally for 2 metal energy, 120 damage for each metal energy you discard in this way. So no ability, you just KO Cornerstone. And I'm like, cool. And a couple of my buddies that were actually at the tournament were playing Gholdengo, and I was like, look, dude, I'm pretty sure this is the only dude playing Scizor EX in the entire deck. And I even asked him, I was like, is it literally just for Cornerstone? He goes, oh yeah, it's literally just for the Cornerstone that people are playing in Raging Bolt and sometimes Terra Box. And I was like, neat, awesome. So that was kind of the end of the run. I was kind of like thinking about sticking it out. Maybe I could end up with like a 4-2-2 record and maybe try to get my way into like top 5-12 or something. But I was like, you know what? It's whatever. I'll just drop. It's not too big of a deal. It is kind of interesting that I won the first 2, tied the second 2, lost the last 2. I think that's kind of interesting. But like I said, I wouldn't change the deck I played. I think I played probably some of the best Pokemon I think I've ever actually played. I mean, I'm 1 win and 2 ties into my absolutely worst matchup. I think had I not double bricked or just had absolutely garbage starts into my Raging Bolt opponent and my Gholdengo opponent, I genuinely think I actually could have had a day 2 run. As like a lot of the top tables were Gardevoir, but a lot of the middle tables that I was going to be sitting at were like Joltik Box and Django, and I'm like, those are the matchups I want to see. Like that's the matchup I can cook it. You know what I mean? I know that matchup so well. I'm super favored into it. Like was really hoping for those, but just ultimately that ended up not being the case. So yeah, that was the Mega Blitz Pittsburgh run. If you guys enjoy the content I've made sure for the channel, definitely make sure to leave a like, smash the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!